Hey, Heartland fans! First off, a heartfelt welcome to all of you. I'm thrilled to have you here. If you love emotional twists, unforgettable love stories, and characters who feel like family, then buckle up because today's topic is huge. We're diving into a game-changing moment, one that no Heartland fan saw coming. It's a moment packed with heartache, hope, and impossible choices. One that will have you questioning loyalties, holding your breath, and yes, maybe even reaching for the tissues. Let's get into it. Picture this. Amy Fleming is finally finding her footing after years of heartache, only to have her world turned upside down by the return of the one man she never expected to see again, Ty Borden. But this isn't a happy reunion. It's a storm that threatens to tear apart everything she's built. And trust me, this is just the beginning. So if you're ready for a story filled with love, betrayal, and impossible choices, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because you do not want to miss what happens next. Let's get into it. No one could have predicted this moment. Just when Amy Fleming believed she had finally found peace, her world was shattered by the return of the man she once loved more than anything, Ty Borden. But this wasn't the fairy tale reunion she might have dreamed of. It was a storm that threatened to unravel everything she had built. Lindy, now old enough to understand, watches as her mother faces an impossible choice: follow her heart or protect the life she created without him. And as if the situation weren't complicated enough, there's Nathan, a man who has stood by Amy's side, offering her a love she never thought she'd feel again. But with Ty's return, his presence casts a long shadow over their fragile connection. Then there's Caleb, who has always been like a brother to Ty. But can he forgive the man who left them all behind? Or will this be the ultimate betrayal? The moment Ty steps back onto Heartland, time seems to freeze. The ranch, once a place of healing and second chances, suddenly becomes a battlefield of emotions. Amy sees him, but it doesn't feel real. It can't be real. The man she mourned, the man she forced herself to let go of, is standing right in front of her. His eyes tell a story of pain, regret, and something darker, secrets buried so deep that speaking them aloud might break him. Lindy clutches Amy's hand, confused but curious. She's heard stories about her father, seen pictures, and felt his presence in the way her mother talked about him. But standing here in flesh and blood, he's just a stranger to her. Ty kneels, trying to find the right words, but the silence is suffocating. How do you make up for years of absence? How do you explain the unexplainable? Jack, ever the protector, steps forward, his voice calm but firm. You've got a lot of explaining to do, son. But Ty's gaze never leaves Amy, because in the end, she's the one he came back for, and she's the one who might never forgive him. Nathan watches from a distance, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew this moment would come, but he never thought it would happen like this. He thought he had time to show Amy that love doesn't have to come with heartbreak. Time to prove that he could be the man she and Lindy needed. But now, Ty's return threatens to undo everything. Amy's heart may still belong to the past, and Nathan isn't sure if he's strong enough to fight for a love that was never truly his. Caleb, the brother, the best friend, the one left behind to pick up the pieces when Ty disappeared, struggles with his own emotions. He loved Ty like family, but that doesn't mean he's ready to welcome him back with open arms. Forgiveness isn't just about words, it's about trust. And after everything that happened, can Caleb ever trust Ty again? The weight of the moment hangs heavy over Heartland. The past and present collide in a way no one was prepared for. As the sun sets over the ranch, one thing becomes clear: this isn't just a homecoming. It's the beginning of a war fought not with fists, but with love, regret, and the choices that will define them all. The silence between Amy and Ty is deafening. They stand in the barn, the same place where their love story began, but now it feels like a battlefield. Amy's heart pounds in her chest, torn between anger and the overwhelming emotions she tried to bury. She searches his face for answers, but Ty only looks at her with sorrow so deep it threatens to pull her under. "How could you?" Her voice is barely above a whisper, but it carries years of pain, betrayal, and longing. Ty exhales, his hands shaking at his sides. "I had no choice, Amy. If I could have," she interrupts, her voice cracking. "You did have a choice. You chose to leave. You chose to let me think you were never coming back." The weight of her words crashes over him like a tidal wave. He knew this wouldn't be easy, but nothing could have prepared him for the raw hurt in her eyes. He tries to explain, to tell her about the danger, the reasons he stayed away, the forces that kept him from coming home. But the words die on his lips because deep down, he knows the truth. Nothing will ever justify the years he lost with her and Lindy. Outside, Nathan watches from the shadows, his jaw clenched. He has always been patient with Amy, never pushing her before she was ready. But now, with Ty back, patience feels like a fool's game. He steps forward, his voice calm but firm. "Amy, are you okay?" Ty turns sharply at the sound of his voice. "And who are you?" Nathan doesn't hesitate. "Someone who was here when you weren't." The air turns ice cold between them, and Amy feels the tension crackle like a wildfire. This is the confrontation she's been dreading, the past and present colliding in a way that could leave everyone in ruins. Jack steps between them, his voice like thunder. "That's enough." He looks at Ty, his expression unreadable. "If you came back to start a fight, you might as well leave now." But Ty shakes his head. "I didn't come back to fight. I came back for my family." And just like that, Amy's world tilts on its axis again. Family. It was a word she had to redefine without him, a word that now feels foreign coming from his lips. But Nathan isn't the only one grappling with the weight of the past. Across the ranch, Caleb fights his own internal battle, haunted by questions he never thought he'd have to ask. He was there when Amy needed a shoulder to lean on, when Lindy needed a father figure, when the entire family struggled to fill the void that Ty left behind. Every sacrifice he made, every moment he stepped up, it all felt like it meant something. But now, with Ty standing in the place he abandoned, Caleb can't shake the gnawing feeling that it was all for nothing. From a distance, he watches, his emotions twisting into something raw and unrecognizable: resentment at being the man who stayed, betrayal at the ease with which Ty seems to reclaim his world, and maybe, just maybe, a hint of jealousy he'd never dare to admit. He wants to be happy for Amy, for Lindy, for the family he's come to love as his own. But as much as he tries to push it down, one truth burns in his mind. Things will never be the same between him and Ty again. The question is, does Ty even care? The night settles over Heartland, but there is no peace. Only unanswered questions, broken hearts, and the terrifying realization that Ty's return isn't the end of the storm. It's only the beginning. Amy doesn't sleep that night. She lies in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with memories that won't stop haunting her: the warmth of Ty's arms around her on cold nights, the sound of his laughter when Lindy took her first steps, the way his presence always made her feel safe. But that's just it. He hasn't been there. And now, when she's finally started to rebuild a life without him, he's back. Expecting what? Forgiveness? A second chance? She doesn't know if she has anything left to give. Downstairs, Jack sits at the kitchen table, his coffee untouched. The weight of the past few hours sits heavy on his chest. He's seen a lot in his life: loss, betrayal, second chances that never quite turned out the way they were supposed to. The way people hoped. He looks out the window at the dark horizon, his mind clouded with thoughts of Ty, the boy he raised like a son, the man who swore to love Amy forever, the same man who vanished without a trace. Jack doesn't know what to believe anymore. He doesn't know if he can ever fully trust Ty again, no matter how much he wants to. In the barn, Ty is wide awake too. He sits on a bale of hay, elbows resting on his knees, hands clasped tightly together. He always imagined coming home, but not like this. Not with Amy looking at him like he's a ghost. Not with Nathan standing there staking his own claim in the life Ty abandoned. That thought burns, but it's a fire he knows he'll have to endure if he ever hopes to find his way back. Nathan doesn't know the man personally, but he recognizes the type, someone who only steps in when everything has already fallen apart. Someone who waits for a woman to hit her lowest point before swooping in. Ty clenches his fists, fighting the urge to storm up to the house, demand answers, and set things right. But deep down, he knows the truth. He lost the right to demand anything the moment he walked away. Nathan, on the other hand, isn't weighed down by guilt, he's consumed by fury. Restless and simmering, he paces the length of his cabin, fists clenched, jaw tight, his mind a whirlwind of memories. He replays every moment he shared with Amy, every glance, every touch, every whispered promise that hinted at a future together. It all felt like progress, like they were building something real. And then, in the blink of an eye, Ty's sudden return shattered everything. Nathan never fooled himself into thinking Amy belonged to him. He's always known that a part of her heart would forever be tied to Ty. But after everything, after the nights she broke down in his arms, after the quiet moments where she let herself lean on him, after all the times he was there when Ty doesn't any of it mean something? Did she ever truly see him, or was he just a placeholder? A temporary comfort until the inevitable happened? And if she does feel something for him, something real, will she have the strength to admit it? Or will she fall back into the only love she's ever known, even if it means repeating the same heartbreak all over again? The next morning, tension hangs heavy in the air. Amy tries to stick to her usual routine, feeding the horses, tending to Lindy, making breakfast, but nothing feels normal anymore. Everything feels off. Lindy is unusually quiet, her small hands clutching her mother's sweater as she watches Ty warily from across the room. Amy's heart aches. Lindy barely remembers her father. She was so young when he left. Amy wonders if that's a blessing or a curse. Lindy, Ty finally speaks, his voice hesitant, almost fearful. "Hey, sweetheart." The little girl doesn't move at first, glancing up at her mother for reassurance. Amy swallows the lump in her throat and forces a smile. "It's okay, honey." Lindy looks back at Ty, then cautiously takes a step forward. Ty kneels, his heart pounding. "I missed you so much," he whispers. Lindy tilts her head, studying him before finally reaching out to touch his face. "Are you staying?" Ty's breath catches. He glances at Amy, who's pretending to focus on the dishes in the sink. "Yeah," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "If you'll let me." Lindy nods, then surprises everyone by wrapping her arms around his neck in a tentative hug. Ty's eyes burn with tears as he holds her close. But when he looks up, he sees only uncertainty in Amy's eyes. Just as the moment begins to settle, Caleb walks in and the fragile peace shatters. Caleb freezes when he sees Ty, his expression unreadable, but his posture stiff. There was a time when they were like brothers, inseparable, but that time is long gone. Caleb has spent years picking up the pieces Ty left behind, being the rock Amy could rely on. And now, Ty has the nerve to show up as if nothing happened. Amy notices Caleb's hands curling into fists. "Caleb," she says quickly, stepping forward. "Maybe we should." But Caleb cuts her off, his voice cold and sharp. "No, I think I deserve to say something. Share your thoughts in comment section, and subscribe my channel for more Heartland updates.